Have you ever wondered why China's carrier fighter was already being replaced before it finished deploying? Or how a jet copied from a stolen Ukrainian prototype crashes more than the original Russian version? Well, strap in, because the Shenyang J-15 is China's carrier disaster built on theft and plagued by fatal flaws. Today, we're revealing 15 shocking facts about this flying shark that's too heavy to launch with full weapons, crashes constantly, and is already obsolete. And number 1 will expose why China wasted billions on a fighter they knew was inadequate. Hit that like button, subscribe for more, and let's expose this carrier catastrophe. 15. Ukrainian betrayal origin. The J-15 is based on a stolen Ukrainian Su-33 prototype that China acquired in dubious circumstances. Ukraine sold an unfinished T-10K3 prototype to China in 2001, allegedly as scrap metal for a theme park. That was obviously a lie. China immediately reverse-engineered the aircraft completely, studying every system and component. Russia was absolutely furious at this technology transfer that armed their strategic competitor. The prototype gave China access to carrier aviation technology they couldn't develop independently. Ukraine's cash-desperate post-Soviet government sold out Russian technology for quick money. This betrayal provided China with decades of Russian carrier fighter development knowledge, instantly through blatant intellectual property theft. 14. Flying Shark nickname. China officially calls the J-15 the Flying Shark, a propaganda nickname designed to sound fearsome and impressive. The marketing name attempts to create an intimidating image for a copied aircraft with serious problems. It's classic Chinese military branding. Choose an aggressive animal name to project power and capability, but the reality doesn't match the fearsome imagery. Pilots know it's not a shark, it's a problematic copy of a Russian jet with numerous flaws. The nickname is lipstick on a flanker, trying to make a troubled aircraft sound revolutionary. Western observers mockingly use the Flying Shark name to highlight the gap between Chinese propaganda and actual capability throughout this program. 13. Catastrophic crash rate. The J-15 has suffered multiple fatal crashes during development and operational service, killing experienced Chinese naval aviators. Pilots died testing an aircraft with serious structural problems and engine failures. The crash rate became unacceptable even by Chinese military standards, which typically tolerate higher losses than Western air forces. Structural failures during carrier operations proved particularly deadly. Engine problems caused catastrophic failures during critical flight phases like landing approaches. The crashes created a death trap reputation among Plan AF pilots who feared the aircraft. Each crash investigation revealed persistent quality control and design issues that weren't properly addressed. 12. Overweight problem. The J-15 is significantly overweight, creating catastrophic operational limitations for carrier operations. It cannot launch from ski jump carriers with both full fuel and full weapons simultaneously. Pilots must choose either maximum fuel for range or maximum weapons for combat effectiveness, but never both together. This severely limits combat radius and strike capability, making the J-15 operationally compromised from day one. The weight problem stems from Chinese manufacturing using heavier materials. China built a carrier fighter that can't actually fight effectively from carriers, defeating the entire purpose of the design and investment in this program. 11. Russian engine dependency. Again, the J-15 uses Russian AL-31F engines because Chinese indigenous engines aren't suitable for demanding carrier operations. Despite decades of trying, China cannot produce reliable high-performance engines for frontline fighters. This dependency on Russian engine supplies creates strategic vulnerability. Russia can cut off engines during diplomatic disputes, grounding China's carrier aviation completely. China tried installing domestic engines, but they proved unreliable and underpowered for carrier use. Every J-15 flying depends on Russian willingness to supply engines, giving Russia leverage. This engine dependency highlights China's persistent weakness in aerospace propulsion technology and manufacturing capabilities. 10. Ski jump launch only. The J-15 can only operate from ski jump aircraft carriers, limiting its capabilities significantly compared to catapult-launched Western carrier fighters. China's Liaoning and Shandong carriers use ski jump ramps because China lacks catapult technology. Ski jump launches severely restrict takeoff weight, forcing the fuel or weapons compromise. The J-15 cannot launch with maximum payload like American FA-18S can from catapult carriers. China's third carrier has electromagnetic catapults, but the J-15 wasn't designed for catapult operations. This means the J-15 is already obsolete for China's newest carriers, showing poor long-term planning and strategic foresight in fighter development. 9. Copy but worse. The J-15 is demonstrably inferior to the Russian Su-33 it was copied from, proving that copying complex technology doesn't guarantee equivalent capability. It's heavier, less reliable, more problematic, and less capable than the original Russian design. Chinese manufacturing quality issues degraded every system during the copying process. Metallurgy, electronics, hydraulics, all inferior to Russian equivalents despite being copied from the same blueprints. The Su-33 already had issues, and the J-15 made them worse. Russia's worst fears about technology transfer were completely confirmed. China took Russian designs, copied them imperfectly, and produced inferior versions that validate why Russia was reluctant to sell them fighters. 8. Folding wings failure. The J-15's wing folding mechanism is notoriously unreliable, creating serious problems for carrier deck operations. Wing folding is essential for hangar storage and deck management on space-constrained carriers. The mechanism fails frequently, jamming wings in extended positions or failing to lock properly when folded. Mechanical failures are common due to poor manufacturing quality and design flaws copied imperfectly from the Ukrainian prototype. These failures cause dangerous situations on carrier decks where space is critical. Aircraft with jammed wings block deck operations, reducing sortie rates and creating safety hazards. Hangar storage becomes problematic when wings won't fold reliably. 7. Limited production. China built only approximately 50 J-15 fighters total before essentially halting production. This small production run is damning evidence of the aircraft's failure. Initial plans called for hundreds to equip multiple carrier air wings. Reality delivered barely enough for 2 incomplete squadrons. Production stopped because China recognized the J-15's fundamental flaws couldn't be fixed through upgrades. Building more of a failed design made no sense. The limited production represents an admission that the aircraft doesn't meet requirements. China is cutting losses rather than investing further in a flawed platform. The short production run will make the J-15 a historical footnote, a failed experiment in carrier aviation that barely saw service before being abandoned. 6. J-35 replacement coming. The J-15 is already being replaced by the J-35 stealth carrier fighter before the J-15 even finished deploying to all planned units. This extraordinarily rapid replacement is unprecedented and proves the J-15's failure. Modern fighters typically serve 30 to 40 years. The J-15 is being retired after barely a decade of limited service. China is developing the J-35 specifically because the J-15 is inadequate and cannot be fixed. The stealth fighter will operate from catapult carriers that the J-15 can't use. This represents China abandoning their stolen copy in favor of an indigenous design incorporating lessons learned. It will have the shortest frontline service of any modern fighter, rendered obsolete by its own inadequacy and China's rapid aerospace advancement. 5. Combat radius pathetic. The J-15's combat radius is pathetically limited at roughly 500 kilometers, when carrying meaningful weapons loads. This inadequate range means the carrier fighter cannot effectively defend its carrier group or conduct meaningful strike operations. The overweight problem directly causes the range limitation. With reduced fuel to enable weapons carriage, the aircraft simply can't fly far. Compare this to American F/A-18 Super Hornets with 700-plus kilometer combat radius while carrying full weapons. The J-15's range makes it strategically useless for the power projection mission carriers are designed for. Chinese carriers must sail dangerously close to targets for J-15s to reach them, exposing the valuable carrier to enemy attack. This range limitation is a strategic liability. 4. Avionics outdated. The J-15's avionics are based on 1990s-era Russian-derived systems, making it technologically obsolete from the start. It lacks AESA radar, using older mechanically scanned arrays that are easier to jam and less capable. The sensors, displays, and fire control systems are generations behind Western carrier fighters. China attempted upgrades but couldn't fix the fundamental technological gap without complete redesign. The aircraft is constantly playing technological catch-up, always 1 or 2 generations behind Western equivalents. By the time upgrades are developed, Western systems have advanced further. The outdated avionics severely limit the J-15's effectiveness in modern combat, requiring advanced sensors and networking. Chinese pilots face opponents with better situational awareness, better targeting, and superior electronic warfare capabilities. 3. Deck operations dangerous. J-15 carrier deck operations are notoriously dangerous, with frequent accidents and incidents even during peacetime training. Landing gear failures during carrier recoveries have caused crashes. Arresting hook problems resulted in aircraft missing wires and crashing into barriers. Deck crew have been injured by various accidents involving the J-15's unreliable systems. The aircraft's weight and handling characteristics make it particularly difficult to operate from carriers safely. Chinese carrier pilots report the J-15 is significantly more challenging and dangerous than land-based fighters. The danger extends beyond the aircraft itself to the entire carrier operation, where one accident can disable flight operations for hours. If the J-15 is this dangerous during routine training, actual combat operations would be catastrophic. 2. Russia refused to sell original. Russia explicitly refused to sell actual Su-33 carrier fighters to China, showing Russian mistrust was completely justified. Russia knew China would copy any technology they acquired, so they declined Chinese purchase requests. This forced China to obtain the Ukrainian prototype through back channels and dubious means. Russia's refusal to sell proved prophetic. China copied the technology exactly as Russia feared. The entire J-15 program vindicates Russian concerns about Chinese intellectual property theft and unauthorized technology reproduction. Russia lost potential sales revenue by refusing, but protected their technology from being copied and turned into a competitor. Except Ukraine's betrayal gave China the technology anyway. 1. Interim failure fighter. Here's the ultimate damning truth. The J-15 was always intended as a placeholder, an interim fighter, until China developed a real carrier-capable aircraft. Chinese planners knew from the start it was inadequate and problematic. They built it anyway to gain carrier aviation experience, accepting it as a training tool rather than a true combat aircraft. China wasted billions of dollars and killed multiple pilots on a fighter they knew was a failure from day one. The entire program was an expensive learning experience disguised as weapons procurement. They needed something flying from carriers while developing actual solutions. And there you have it. 15 facts proving the Shenyang J-15 is China's carrier disaster built on theft and replaced before maturity. Which fact shocked you most? The catastrophic crashes or planned obsolescence? Drop your thoughts below. Hit like, subscribe for more military analysis, and we'll see you in the skies.